from that decision on, my parents just knew that I really wanted this for myself. And I'm going to put 100% to reach my dreams and my goals. And they didn't stop me. At 18 years old, you don't just leave your youngest daughter to go to Amsterdam on her own.
And how long were you there?
I was there for almost 15, 16 years. Yes. If you want to excel, you don't feel like that is a sacrifice. It's just what you have to do.
Welcome to the Game of Impossible podcast. I'm Leon and this is my dad, Idris Jala. We are a father and son podcast where we discuss all things transformation through the lens of business, leadership, sport, and faith. And I say sport, and we've had maybe a few discussions where we say maybe we say sport in the title, don't maybe have enough athletes represented. And so today it's a great joy and privilege to have Datuk Dr. Nicol David with us in the studio today. Nicol, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here today. It's an honor.
So many accolades, which we will go through later. But one of the things that we always talk about is what is it that forms the mindset to begin with? And so I'm curious for you, Nicol, what were maybe some early things that shaped your mindset and the ability to handle pressure?
Well, it all started in my home and my parents giving me that safe space, that positive environment to grow up in. And, you never felt that you have a barrier to move forward or to do anything I wanted to do. And they just gave me a platform to just enjoy, have fun with sport, also into my studies. And there was no pressure from the very beginning. They never thought that we needed to be pushed to achieve excellence in whether it's sport or in my studies. So that's where it all began. My dad was a former athlete himself, playing football for Malaysia.
You were the goalkeeper.
Yes, for Penang and then for Malaysia.
Right.
But also my mom was an English teacher. And I think the combination of the two, having my mom's patience in the sense of being a teacher, you have to be patient with children, and having my dad's background of an athlete, knowing what to do, how the mindset is like, what is the drive that takes to become the best in his field. And I think they were my role models growing up. And with that said, that influence really shaped me to be who I am today. And at the same time, my mom is also a very gracious person. She's very thankful with the people that she's around with, and I think that humbleness I do want to emulate to be just like her. So that's where the both combination really stands out.
And it's a great combination because you've got, on the one hand, the ability to handle pressure at a high level, so that you get from your father. And then from your mom, there's both kind of, I think, the patience and the persistence to be able to stick onto your disciplines long enough to see the fruit come out later. But then also, I think, an element of grace. What were some ways that they maybe inculcated that in an intentional way for you?
I felt that my parents always took my sisters, my two older sisters, and I, just how we are. And it's more of, if they could just nurture and give us enough love and support and give us the right values from the very beginning, that makes all the difference in how we have an outlook in life, and not be put in a like a little box that, okay, you can only do this, and you can't do more than what you're given. So we played all kinds of sport. So squash was my first sport that I started at 5 years old. And because there was a public squash center that my dad's friend built in Penang, for the very first time in Penang, we had a public squash center, and that's where my sisters and I started. So it was my first love, and I love squash. But then it was also about exposing us to different things, whether it's art, whether it's different like dancing or just music or playing sport, any kind of thing that was in our path. They just let us take it on board. But sport was the true stronghold that really brought us back, and we played everything. I played volleyball, basketball, you name it.
Yeah, you did them all.
Athletics and swimming, but squash was my passion, and
Yeah.
I really excelled there, and it just showed because I represented the state, the country, and then obviously went on to winning more titles for the country.
Leon and I talk a lot about this thing called GOI, Game of Impossible.
Yes.
The way that we think about it is like this, that you set a target that is so high that you then conclude that you cannot achieve it based on the normal way in which you do it. Therefore, you have to find a completely new way how to do it. So I look at your history. Very early on in your career, you decided to move out from Malaysia, go to Amsterdam to change the place for your training. That I consider, in my view, it's almost like you now said, find a new way of training by relocating this. To what extent was that formative years for your launching pad to become a champion?
It was the turning point of my life to be the best that I could be. I was actually stuck at some point when I was training in Malaysia, and it was a point where I had to decide whether I wanted to play full time or to just resort to going back to my studying and going to university. But I took some time off. It was a big loss in the Asian Games in 2002, where I had to win the gold medal, but I lost quite badly, and it just shifted my mind to like, what do I really need to do now? Do I really want to pursue squash because it was so painful to have that loss, but I feel that I'm stuck with my game. What do I do next? And I realized that when I took some time out of the scene, and I didn't have squash, and I just took like maybe 1 or 2 months. I went to New Zealand to be with my family there. My dad's brother is there with his family, and I reflected, and I really wanted to become a professional squash player, and I wanted to be a world champion and a world number one day. And at 18 years old, I came back from New Zealand. I told my parents that I want to make this move. I want to train with the best coach in the world, and Liz Irving was based in Amsterdam, and I decided to move. And from that decision on, my parents just knew that I really wanted this for myself, and I'm going to put 100% to make this happen and to reach my dreams and my goals. And it didn't stop me. At 18 years old, you don't just leave your youngest daughter to go to Amsterdam and on her own. And
how long were you there?
I was there for almost 15, 16 years.
Yes.
And it was
massive sacrifice as
well. That's the other thing. I think everyone thinks that when you do those things like moving abroad or leaving family, it doesn't seem like a sacrifice. It seems like something that has to be done. It's like a part of the package.
Sure.
If you want to excel, you don't feel like that is a sacrifice. It's just what you have to do. And that's where I went there. I didn't feel that I was leaving anyone, but my parents were right behind me when I was there. They were supporting me all the way. And my coach knew exactly how to change my game. I had to change my technique from zero and restart rebuilding again. I had to learn how to be stronger. I needed to have new tactics because my game was only a one game where I just run and get everything. So she needed to expand my horizon on tactics and strategy. I needed to be stronger because I was only
diet as well changed.
Actually, diet wasn't too big an issue. It was more of how I can enhance my performance. So recovery food or things that can really build me to get stronger and ready for the task. And also being ready for the pressure, for the expectations of playing top players at such a level. They are going to push you in different ways. So just be ready for that sort of intensity at the back of my mind, and all these things I had to learn, develop. It was tough. It was painful because it was so like your floor or your foundation is it's shaken, and it's not. You have to rebuild again. So
describe a day in the life of Nicol in Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam,
when you were training at that time.
It was very simple. I wake up maybe at 8 o'clock, not too early because my coach says that I don't function before 9 a.m. So it's better to train everything after 9.
Yeah.
So I'll wake up at 8, have breakfast, maybe like a cereal or eggs. And then I'll go to train at maybe 9:30, 10. It depends on the timing. And then it will be like an hour, 2 hours of squash training with her. She'll be feeding. And then I'll have lunch, have a little break, and then start again at 2:30, and then finish by 4:30. And then it will be like 2 to 4 hours in the day of training. And then I'll be having dinner and watch TV and chill and recover for the next day. So that's basically my
every day.
Huge amount of discipline. I'm interested to hear how you hold the tension between kind of the intended outcome and the goal, but also the discipline. Sometimes people might think that those two things are at odds with one another. I know for us, we have our tendency in the past has been to be very kind of outcome and goal oriented. But then, recently our thinking was also challenged by, it was James Clear who wrote that book, Atomic Habits. And it says that we don't rise to the quality of our goals, we fall to the quality of our systems and disciplines.
Sure.
So for you, I think there's very clearly both of those, right? Because I think from a very early age, you basically had visualized what it might look like to play at the highest level. But then you've also got the discipline. I think for some people, you can have that visualization, but sometimes that can actually turn into delusion as well, when you're not grounded in reality. So how does someone then go from having that visualization to actually bringing it down to action?
It was more that my coach actually had a very clear pathway of a plan towards those goals. Whether I had to improve a certain technique to this point, she would tell me, okay, your first year, you're gonna have to do this. Focus on this technique and making sure that you have more variety in the way you hit the ball. And in that process, you need to learn how to move more efficiently. And then it's like a stepping stone towards reaching my first goal, which was to be world champion and world number 1. And she did say it's going to take some time. So just be patient. Maybe it will take 7 years, but you'll get there eventually. So I stuck with it because it was very clear. I knew the steps, and if I did that, I would get there. So I didn't falter. I knew that if I kept to it and I stick to the plan, it's going to happen. So the discipline comes. I didn't realize it was also discipline. So when you say sacrifice, discipline, it's like one package. Being an athlete, if you want to be the best, you have to have that package deal. And I just did it. And when I tell my friends or that if you are told that you need to do this and take these steps to be world champion, you would do it, right? And everyone was like, no, I won't stick to it. I know I have to do it, but I won't do it all the time. But I said, but why not? Because you're told that this is going to happen, you do it. So I trusted the process. And I think that is very key. I trusted my coach. She has been there. She knew exactly how to break it down for me to be clear in my mind that visualizations can become real and it can be realistic goals to achieve. And it was achievable. And it all happened in 4 years. It was a tough first year because you're adjusting. The second year becomes a bit more, like you can see the light a little bit. And then you start beating players. And then the third year, you start winning tournaments. And the fourth year is when everything kicked off, when I won my first world title at 22, when I won my first British Open title and I got to number 1. All of that happened, but it's because I just stuck to the plan. It made it, in my mind, it sounded easy because it was told to me, but everyone was saying, there's no way we're going to follow the same plan if it were given to us. So I guess that was my discipline, just following through the task.
Yeah. Do you think that there's an element, and we were kind of talking about this casually before we started recording, you said something to the effect of, sometimes it's also just an inherent personality trait that gives someone the ability to maybe persevere and to really go for gold. What do you think about that? Can it be coached in people?
To a point, I believe so, 100%. But it really comes down to your innate will to want it so badly, and that was me. I had it in my gut that I wanted it so badly. I wanted to win. I wanted to improve. I wanted to get better, stronger, and be the best squash player I can be. And always, every year, I felt that I needed to keep improving. I needed to keep growing. And when I focus on that aspect, I will only get better and I will only improve and I will only live up to my expectation of being at number one. Because if you're at the top and you keep getting better, you're only
everybody wants to beat
and
you.
everybody wants to beat you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
And it's just that pressure of knowing that they are at my neck all the time that I always needed to improve at every game or every aspect of my game, whether it's my mind, my strategy, my technique, and I always have to watch out on what my opponents are doing to then build my game even more complete. So that was my only driver, is to see how I could improve those different, like those little things that everyone is trying to beat me, and I cover, I try to cover every aspect so they have nothing to poke on me to that I could falter.
For you to have stayed as a world champion number one in your sport for 9 years, it's absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
108 months to think that you did that.
Yeah.
I think in any sport, it's very hard to find anyone that stayed that long at number one. I mean, you have the two sisters,
Yes.
the Greenham, the two of them, they really work all out to try and beat you. They did beat you, but each time you came back and beat them.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. So what was in your mind if you were thinking about those two sisters, Natalie and Rebecca, and then you knew they were out to get you?
Yeah.
Actually, in the beginning, Rachel was the first one that I really wanted to go for, because she was world number one for almost 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And she was a tough player to play and super skillful. So when I got a chance to break through and beat her for the very first time at the World Championships, and it was that belief that I finally got one of the sisters, and then I could move forward, having a belief that if you're already there, now it's the time for you to make it happen for yourself. And they had their different strategies trying to beat me. One of them was thinking, okay, let's do this tactic of, they had all kinds, they were throwing everything at me, but I was just ready for what's coming. We do a lot of video analysis with my coach.
Yeah.
And we also see what they are looking out. One will do something and the other one will do something else. So we just have to just cover my bases as much as possible. And that was that. Like, they pushed me to be better. They pushed me to be a better squash player. And all the rivals that came after, they gave me that opportunity that I had areas to improve and areas to learn about myself and what I'm capable of doing to be even better than what I originally am. So I couldn't stay still at one point. If not, they will beat me, you know? So, yeah.
What's the biggest mindset shift, in moving from being the challenger to when you're defending your spot at the top?
Yeah, I was thinking of that. Like, I didn't have a mindset shift. I just had to have a mindset that evolved. I always had a very set mindset where I go in, I make it happen, I work really hard, I stick to the task. And when I got to world number one, that mindset had to evolve. It's a different idea of not just chasing to be that world champion, but how do you become the best world champion? So I always thought that I was number two to be number one. So I always felt that it's not my position to keep. So every month I have to work harder to get my number one position. So perform well in each tournament, train hard towards like the season, whether it's the first half of the season, building up, what do I need to do for that first half? And then the second half, I build up for that. And I needed to be very precise and specific on what tournaments I play. How do I use tournaments to perform for my peaking tournaments? So these are, so that mindset is always there, but I had to evolve on the way that I cannot let my guard down. I had to always find ways to improve and find things that I could really tap on to not lose sight. And it comes with a lot of training, like mental training. So I worked with a sports psychologist when I was 12 years old.
Okay.
And a mental trainer where the sports council actually brought in when it was the 1998 Commonwealth Games in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, and squash was introduced. And we got all these experts coming in for squash, and like whether it's a physical trainer, a mental trainer, nutritionist, all these experts came in to support our squash athletes. And I was in the national team at 12 years old at the time. And I had so much information that I improved it so much in 2 years. And this mental trainer taught us how to visualize, how to do goal settings, how to minimize negativity around and turn things around to be positive. So all these learnings, I've done it from a young age.
Right.
But when it came to being world number one, I needed a sports psychologist in Amsterdam to help me understand how to stay on track, not lose sight of what I'm trying to do, how to manage that expectations or the pressure to be number one when everybody is out there to just want to kill me and then finding ways to really take me down. And so that was like learning and understanding that every factor around you could affect your focus.
I have a belief that if Malaysia were to hire you and to become the person that help our athletes to strengthen their mental state to win, I think we'll
Maybe
go
not even just athletes. I think anyone can benefit from
because,
that. Huh?
Because that is the key. My belief is that we have a lot of athletes, particularly in badminton. The skills are all there. All the stuff is there. But somehow at the last bit there, the edge is that they lost it there. I think it's all down to the mental state. That edge on the mental state. I mean, you've gone through that. I think it's hard to find anyone in any sport that had stayed at the top for 9 years, 108 months. And you must be absolutely robust in thinking to stay there. So I think Malaysian sport really should learn from you how to do that.
Well, we have so much potential, and I think our athletes all have it. But it comes down to the belief. Like I always say, when you have that first win, like when I won my first world title, it's when that belief came true. But even then, I still didn't fully believe just yet. Being world number one, I had to figure out what to do. I was very traumatized by the notion of like, I am number one now. What do I need to do? What is expected of me? Do I need to stand different? Do I need to act different? And that's where I faltered the first few months. And I went down the rankings and I lost. And sometimes you stay in that rut because you don't know what to do, and it's okay. Athletes will go through that because it's just a new position to be in, and it's about getting used to it. But now, how do you change your goals? You have to set new goals. So
you set new goals.
So every
when,
year
when you were beaten by, I think it was Rachel that beat you in Seoul. Was it Rachel or
Natalie?
She beat you then. What happened after she beat you, and how did you recover and beat her in the same year?
I mean, I obviously hate losing, and especially to Natalie in a tournament where you only expect yourself to keep performing and winning. So of course, I made an extra effort to look into what went wrong, I always learn from my losses. The biggest learnings are from my losses that I go into further detail on what went wrong, how to find solutions, what really went through my mind at the time when something distracted me, or how did I lose focus and went off and not come back to start winning again. So I needed to pinpoint those moments and then practice it in training so that it doesn't happen again. Can we dive
deep on that? Because I'm quite curious. When you look at that game when you lost to Natalie in Seoul, what were the things that you saw as the things that you failed to do, and that's the reason why, and you corrected them? Very specific.
It was just purely I let my emotions come in maybe when a decision is made and it doesn't go my way, and maybe I was a bit more emotional, or I wasn't as focused going in, so my warm-up wasn't up to par. I don't know, but at that moment she was playing really well, and my mind shifted to her, not to myself.
To you.
So sometimes that happens, and it's so and you need to make a conscious effort to turn it around back to me and realize that I am capable to come back and play my game, but not focus too much on the player beating me.
Yeah.
Right.
So sometimes when you're not feeling good and you're feeling like not your best focus, all these things come up, like the crowd, the referee, or a comment that's made, and then it becomes more negative and you put yourself down. In your mind, all these things are going in, but I didn't have the capacity to turn it around on the spot. So I let myself go into it a bit deeper. Then I started focusing on her rather than my game. And then she's playing on full form, and I'm like, wow, she's playing good. And so it's your mind can shift so quickly. So that's when I knew that my next tournament I have to be even sharper. If that happened, turn it around almost instantly. So I have like trigger words that keeps me going. I have like things that I like touch and feel to bring me back to the present moment.
What were your trigger words that you use?
Like stand tall, like keep going. Just serve, like watch the ball. Just very small things that I come back to focus. And maybe one word doesn't work, I use the other one, or so it's just trial and error on the day itself. But all this takes practice. So I do it in my training. I train with different players that, a female player or male player, to change different games. And then I can get my mind ready. And it's like a simulation matches towards the actual tournament. So a few weeks before, I'll do visualizing like a ultimate perfect game, my every movement, every shot. And then I will see myself carrying the trophy. And then I do that almost every day.
How long does that take, that exercise?
Not too long. Like it will take maybe 5 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes max. But I'll do it either in the morning of the training day, or like in the match day, or the night before, depending on my feel of that moment when I'm going through the motions. But a lot of practice comes into it, a lot of training. And like I can say all this now, but not every athlete will probably take the same training, like mental training that I did the same way, because it may not work for others. So they have to figure it out themselves. It's like a game plan. Your mental game plan.
Now, I'm curious to see how all of these disciplines have now translated into actually what you're doing today. You talked about evolution just now. And so, if we go closer to where we are now, what was that evolution for you like, transitioning from athlete to now running your foundation? What were some things that maybe you had to unlearn? Talk us through that process.
It was very daunting for me to run my own foundation. I never thought I could do something else other than being a squash player. And I think that mindset of knowing that my identity was purely being number one in the world and being a squash player was really ingrained in my mind. And when I moved to Amsterdam, I moved to Amsterdam for 15 years, but at the same time, at the tail end of my career, I went to Colombia to do some training with the Colombian team to change it up a little bit. And a good friend of mine that used to play squash, she's Mariana, and she's now the CEO and co-founder of my foundation. She was a former squash player. And at the time, I just touched base with her and I said, look, I'm about to retire, but I don't know really how to set up my own foundation. I feel a bit lost because I only know squash. And what she told me was that, how can you say that you don't know? You are a world champion. You have all the qualities in the world to be a great leader. Why put yourself in that box of just a squash player where you can do so much more with the capacity that you have done in your career? Put it into this next phase of your life. These qualities are going to make your foundation so much stronger. But I can also maybe help guide you, maybe think of a structure to put the foundation together, and who knows what you can do. So that's when everything kicked off. Like, okay, you have to help me to set it up. And she went, okay, let's do it together. And now she's in Malaysia 3 years later. I feel so much more confident in myself because I had to let go of squash to then fully grab my next phase of my life to understand that I am capable to take on this journey of putting basically a company together from scratch and to take on this new life. And it all comes down to sport, like the discipline, the resilience to understand how to adapt. All these things that I learned from being an athlete, I've just translated it into being a leader in the foundation, in the Nicol David Organisation.
And you spent time to invest in this new season as well. Tell us a little bit about the Harvard program that you did, and what were some key learnings from there?
Yes, so the Harvard program was about using the power of influence for positive impact. So we kind of think that power in influence is always a negative thing, because when you have power, you kind of use it to your advantage, but it's not exactly true. It's just that's just our perception of power. Sometimes it becomes a little bit more negative than actually influencing others. And the impact that you can give to others is not just using power trips to be negative, but so many things can be done in a positive way. So I learned so much from that course, and you can do so much more with just the power within yourself when it's real, when it's not like taken just because you want to show off or to use that platform for something bad that you're just gaining for your own self. I want to use this power for good, and I want to use this position that I have to influence everyone else that can be the best version of themselves, the way I did that in my life and growing up. So I didn't want to keep it to myself. I wanted to learn how to use it better, how to use that power of influence for a positive impact through my platform and through the foundation. So to give a little bit of a background of the foundation, right now we have 3 different pillars in the foundation, where the first pillar, initially we started, and it's called Little Legends. And we focus on empowering girls and boys through sport and education. So we use squash training and English classes as an after-school program. And we take kids when they are 8 years old at Standard 2, and we see them through their primary years. So it's a progression program, and we now have about 135 kids in the program after 3 years. And it's the most rewarding feeling to see these kids play squash, to learn English, and to see the confidence that they get through the values of sport, and to have that environment where they can grow in a positive environment. So that's what we started off. And in the process, we found that this second pillar that we are learning is to give support to the families. So we started with a mothers program, which is called Ibu Legends, and we help the mothers of the children. So we give them free medical checkups. We give them mental health support, like workshops, and also financial education workshops, so that they can have a little bit of a holistic learning for the moms. And of course, the dads will come in the picture later on, but we'll use sport to help them. And the last pillar is reaching out to schools, our outreach pillar, which is called Positive Play. And we use positive psychology and also physical activity to reach school children. And we have a 4-week intervention where we go to school. Yeah.
And what ages were the kids?
It's about Standard 6. So maybe 6. Like when they are puberty years. So Standard 6 to Form 1, Form 2. Yeah. And then we want to tackle the inactivity in school, in our children and our youth nowadays. So we want to give them the tools so it's a combination of the both. So getting them like 45 minutes of physical activity, which is fundamentals of exercise, and also positive psychology, like thinking positive, having learning to make the right decisions, breathing techniques, and also just having gratitude as well. So all these things to help these kids to have some learnings or tools for them, for their mental health and their physical well-being.
Yeah, and I love that it's holistic. I mean, to your point earlier, you touched on how I think sometimes there can be an over-reliance on just one's physical ability to
Yeah.
do the thing or the physical hard skills. But actually what really gives one the X factor is the ability to merge that with also some of the soft skills. And so
Yeah.
I love what you explained. And, you know, before recording, you were also sharing, the approach as well in how you sort of equip coaches to coach the kids. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so initially everyone have asked me, why do you not start an academy, make money and, grow your position in Malaysia? And I wanted to actually give back more what Malaysia has given me. I want to give back to the next generation and to reach out to kids that don't have access to squash. And right now we're going to public schools around the facility. So we have 4 partner schools. And these kids are just kids that want to try the game, to want to play a sport that they don't even know of. So we get all different kind of kids, and our coaches need to understand that these kids, 80% of them will only want to come to have fun. And they want to play. They want to just have a group of kids that just want to enjoy squash together. They may not have maybe the best skills, but they are there to learn a new skill. They want to have some running and like hand and eyeball coordinations. And our coaches need to understand that every kid has a different level of progression. So you have the higher levels where they go faster and the lower levels that are just there to play. So you have to have different expectations. You cannot expect them to be hitting the ball straight away in the next 2 months. It's not possible, but they will take their time. So patience comes with this process, and our coaches are learning and they are enjoying the process. The moment they see the kid actually hitting the ball a bit more, they're getting a better understanding about running and hitting and moving. And I think those small milestones that the coaches are now seeing can make a big difference in their approach to their own coaching mindset as well. So
yeah, interesting, right? Because some people might assume that, oh, isn't that counterproductive to wanting to raise champions? But actually, as I'm listening to you, I think the value in that is by allowing more people to just feel like they can play. You're allowing more people to maybe identify as squash players is one. And then as a result, actually, you democratize the ability to play a sport that actually some people might think is quite inaccessible. And actually, and as you do that, while you're not directly addressing the champions, actually, you create an environment where there are more squash players. And then those who want to play at a more serious level, they've actually got to work a bit harder now to stand out. So I think that's very, very cool. On the topic of environment, then, what do you think are some ways that, you know, us in Malaysia, and I know you're doing a lot of this with your foundation, but what do you think is the kind of goal in terms of the right environment that we can create in Malaysia for sport in general, for us to perform well at a high level?
We do have a great environment. I believe that it comes from giving the sense of guidance, and the nurturing part, I think, comes a little bit more from all levels. It has to be a bit more encouraging, not so much of saying that this is not right, this is not good, but just more of a nurturing way of coaching. I think we do have that around, but it's creating that space that they're not doing something wrong if they don't get it right. And I think that's where we have to kind of change that. For instance, in Amsterdam, my coach really makes a point to bring in the right team to create that positive environment around me and have the same mindset. So when I'm off, like I'm not feeling as good, they all have a role to play to bring me back to you are doing great, keep it up, you and everybody is in a right frame of mind and have that positive energy to put me back into where I should be. This is what we need to create all the time, whether it's at work, whether it's in our foundation. We all need to come together to create that environment. We start the positive energy. It starts from you, and once you can generate that, and that's what Mariana and myself, we create that culture, everyone will follow suit. And then the kids will
Yeah.
feel the
Yeah.
same. And then they will develop that in the process. And the families will feel that. So it's like a ripple effect. And it happens in a workplace as well. You need to start it, and then
Absolutely.
everyone can
Yeah,
carry on.
I want to jump in here on transition.
Yes.
You made a big transition when you hung your squash racket from competitive game to become a leader of an organization. And that must have been quite a transition for you, thinking about shifting from that to that.
Yeah.
And was it difficult for you making that transition?
Absolutely. It was very, very tough first to let go of my squash. So it was very emotional. When I decided to retire, it was 2 years into my actual
Right.
hanging my racket up. So the first year was an emotional battle where I couldn't let go of squash. It was like a breakup from
Yeah,
my squash.
It was your life.
Yeah, it was my life, and it was all that I ever knew, and my whole identity was that. So, but the minute I let that go, I really made space for things that I can do, to learn things, to be open to exploring. And that's where I wanted to learn how to be a bit more of a leader in my next phase. And that's where when I transitioned and when I retired, I was the happiest. I was ready.
Wow. You were ready.
Yeah, I was ready to.
There were no temptation to return to
No.
squash.
Once I'm done.
checked out.
I checked out completely. I was so happy. I was smiling away in my last match in 2019, and I never looked back. And I was just prepared for what's coming. And I think that needed to happen. That whole breakup needed to happen to let me have that full space and to take it all in, to lead the foundation with my co-founder.
You are an exceptional few. There are many people who've left one part of their life, like in your case, a squash, transition to something completely different. I would say maybe 1% of people succeed in doing that. Arnold Schwarzenegger is an example. Sebastian Coe is another. Imran Khan actually was another.
Huge
I
example.
remember World Bank invited me a few years ago. They sent to me, Idris, Imran Khan is the Prime Minister now of Pakistan. We will pay for your ticket to come and have a chat with him. So I remember flying there. I entered his room, and there were 4 ministers with him. The finance minister wasn't in the room. So he said, Idris, World Bank said you have a story to tell, share your experience. So I had a deck of slides, and I presented the slides. And as I was going through that, I must have presented something like 15 slides. And then the finance minister walked in. So I looked at Mr. Prime Minister, would you allow me to repeat the story so that he can catch up with the 15 slides that I presented? He said, no, let me do it, he said.
Oh, wow.
So he said, let me present the slides and you grade me after I've done it. That's what he said. So I watched him. So he took my slides and he presented it to the finance minister.
Oh, wow.
After he finished, he looked at me and asked me, how did I fare? Give me A, B, or C. I gave him an A+. It was all to the T. And this was the comment he made. Everybody only think of me as a cricketer. Nobody think that I know anything about anything else. So I just want you to know that I studied and I have my bachelor degree in PPE and from Oxford.
Yeah, wow.
He said, I know a lot about economics, philosophy, and politics, but nobody knew that. All they knew about me was I was a cricketer. So changing that identity was tough for him, he said. It took him a long time to transition. It was difficult. He found it. So we had a long chat about that, and he said, wow, Idris, it's so hard for me to hang my boots and my back in cricket. It was very difficult. It's like you say, it's like a divorce. It was his entire life was just that. So for you to really check out, that really is quite successful in your case. You had no temptation to return, but you moved on. I mean, so I wish Malaysia used you a lot of your foundation. And I still believe that you can play a part in Malaysian sport. to
Yes.
strengthen the mental discipline amongst our athletes. And I think we will go very far in my view. What do you think, Leon?
I agree. I mean, I think what you are doing is
Thanks.
essentially it's a form of nation building. You know, sometimes people will think that nation building means you have to be directly affecting certain policies. But I think what you're doing is you are shifting some of the environments, for people to be able to perform better at sport, but also doing it in a holistic way so that it's not just the kids who benefit, but it's also the families who benefit as well. And I think in order to do that, it requires a great level of humility. And I know that that's something very close to your heart as well, this idea of leading with humility. How does that dynamic work? Because sometimes people might think in order to lead is to lead with power and authority. How do you hold both authority and also humility in the way that you lead yourself, in the way that you lead your organization as well?
I feel that you have to be true to yourself. I don't think I can do anything outside of my own beliefs, and the way I am is who I am, and I think it's what you see is what you get. And when you lead, you don't need to change the way you are. It's just you just have to go according to the strength that you can portray through that humility. And it comes with a lot of power when you come forward, being honest, being a good person. You want to gain trust from the people that you're working with, especially when you're working with children, with families. They need to trust that they are in the right place, in the safe environment. And that's where that leadership doesn't need to have a different face. It just has to be something that is genuine, and it's nothing more than what you see. So that's why I want to always continue to be who I am in my foundation and in how I approach whether it's any new funders, whether it's building it to a different level. The way I am is not going to change. It's just it's going to be more powerful because you gain the trust from the person you're always going to be in front of. So that will be my main driver to keep to that. Obviously, people think that I will change eventually, but I think this is going to be who I am for the rest of my lifetime.
Yeah.
So
how did faith? What did faith play in you becoming a champion?
My family is very strong in my Catholic religion, and my mom, of course, like she prays very hard and to make sure that I'm always well protected and to be in a good place. And I feel that there is a higher power in the way that I have competed, in the way that I've taken on my journey in my life, whether it's my career or in my foundation. I think everything was already planned out for me in terms of my own personal faith and I knew that was a higher power that has taken me through. So I'm very grateful for that as well. And thanks to my family's prayers because they always were very strong in making sure that I'm always looked after. So I always felt that I had a guiding presence always. So that helps too. That I always knew that even though I had plans, but I didn't have to kind of worry. I know that something is there for me to always take it on board, and I always have hope and. That it will all come true.
Yeah. And I think hope is also the ability to have like an underlying joy in the things that you do. And like, joy is different to happiness because you can have joy even in the face of adversity, even in the face of pressure. So I wonder for you, what brings you joy?
Right now, like the things that I'm doing now, seeing the kids being happy in the foundation, playing, the mothers, I think when we had the mothers program, just seeing that all the struggles that they're going through, that we are making a difference. They change from after 4 workshops, we see them being a little bit quiet to now having a sense of community with the other mothers and feeling that they are worth, being a woman and being a mom. And all those are so fulfilling. And I genuinely feel the happiest and so much joy in giving back and giving this space in my heart to others. And now even in the schools program, we are going to reach 1,000 children this year, reaching 38 schools.
Congratulations.
And I think, and every time my team sends a video, it's kids just laughing and smiling, running and being outdoors and just learning about new things. And they're like, I learned about being positive and I positive thinking. And that's all they remember. That's what we wanted to make that difference. And that's what brings me joy.
Yeah. And finally, Nicol, to close, like you mentioned earlier, the podcast is called The Game of Impossible.
Yeah.
So I wonder for you, what is your vision of a game of impossible for the nation? And, how do you see you and your foundation playing a part in effecting that?
Well, the game of impossible for me is to get all Malaysians active, and especially Malaysian kids active. And I know it's an impossible task, but I hope that my foundation could reach almost all schools to realize the potential of, if they have a sport or they are active in their life, they can be so much better in their own personal health. They can be just better people. They can grow to be better Malaysians, and they can do whatever it takes to achieve their dreams and their full potential. So I want to give that back to Malaysia as much as I can. And if I have to do it for a long time, I will do as much as I can to get there.
Well, Nicol, thank you for already giving so much to the country, to put us on the world map, and for all your continued contributions as well, to continue to build from there as well. And it's been a great joy and privilege to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today.
No, thank you so much, Leon and Datuk Sri. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening to yet another episode of The Game of Impossible. If you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did, you can tune in to our weekly episodes. We put up an episode every Friday at 6 a.m. on both YouTube as well as Spotify, so you can subscribe to those channels. But we also have short form content on both our IG and TikTok at The Game of Impossible. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you guys next week.